1 year ago, two co-workers decided to start a travel podcast to explore the history of exotic locations all across the world.
Something never been done before in the walls of Barstool Sports. Today, these brave podcasters are releasing their biggest episode yet in honor of the 1 year anniversary of the show.
We sat down with Mr. History himself, Ken motherfucking Burns.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Fasten those seatbelts and strap in. We'll get you to those margaritas ASAP.
Hola, bonjour. Ciao bella, mesdames et messieurs. Salam and salam.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Drop a Pin, a very special episode because this podcast is officially a year old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The haters said we couldn't do it.
We survived.
Here we are. Yeah.
I feel like if your pod survives a year, it could definitely survive 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. Most people's pods don't last a year.
Yeah.
We only have 7.5 more to go to pass my longest running podcast.
Yeah. And I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what we can do on this pod. We still haven't done a China episode, and that's where I lived for 8 years. So we'll definitely be getting into some of my China stories in the future.
And like we said, I think at the beginning, you and I didn't really have a whole lot of conversations. Like, we didn't have like a strong relationship by any means.
No, we were always friendly with each other, but this podcast was like our first time talking. So I think we're getting more comfortable at that.
Yeah, I think we're hitting our stride.
You're probably wondering, why are we dressed in Revolutionary War costumes? That's because we have our biggest guest yet.
Yeah, without a doubt. Everybody that we talked to, as soon as we said who it was, they were pumped. And I think he is the most accomplished documentarian that there is in the United States, possibly ever in the United States. He is, and you'll hear it soon, maybe the smartest person, historian that I've ever talked to.
Yeah.
The amount of information that is in his brain is unbelievable.
I've never met a man more passionate about America than him.
Yeah.
Like he bleeds America.
Yeah, for sure.
We were privileged to talk to him. It is Ken Burns. He originally said he could only do 45 minutes or something, but I think we talked to him for like an hour and 15.
Yeah.
And I think he really enjoyed the conversation just as much as we did.
Yeah. And without further ado, let's hear it.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Drop a Pin. Today we have, I think, maybe our biggest guest yet. A guest so big we came to him. One of the most influential documentary filmmakers of our time, Mr. American History, Ken Burns.
Oh my goodness, what a great way to wake up. Thank you for coming to me, by the way, because all I've been doing is going to everybody else. So I'm very happy to be here with you.
It's an honor to be here. And you've done all sorts of documentaries, most focused on American history, but one of your biggest ones yet is coming out soon, and it's on the American Revolution, 6 parts, 12 hours, and that's dropping November 16th?
That's correct, yeah. Let me just say I won't work on a more important film. The emphasis on the word more. I feel like other films that I've made, like the Vietnam series, like the Civil War, like our series on World War II, maybe the U.S. and the Holocaust, other films are as important. I hope I will continue to do films that are as important, but there's nothing more important than that, particularly now when Americans find themselves in this sort of very anxious period where they don't know who they are. So in a way, there's a kind of self-therapy that takes place. When an individual is having some sort of crisis, you go to somebody, a professional, and they start asking questions. And the questions are, where did you come from? What's your origin story? What? Tell me the circumstances. And I think for Americans at that place where they need that kind of re-engagement with who they are, their identity, going back to the beginning and finding out what actually happened. I don't mean all the romanticized versions of the American Revolution. It's tough to get in there because there are no photographs. There's no newsreels. They're, in wigs, and they wear stockings and breeches, and there's buckles on their shoes, and they couldn't possibly be like us. They are exactly like us. and they came to some conclusions about their circumstances, as good as those circumstances essentially were, and said, we can do better. And it had to do with how these incredibly different 13 colonies decided that they could forget a lot of those outward differences and come to terms with what they knew, what they shared in common. And then to rise up against what was, probably the best form of government on earth at that time, the British constitutional monarchy, and offer something even better. But wait, new and improved, and that's what we got, and that's the story of the Revolution. And it isn't just, Lexington and then Yorktown. It is an 8.5-year bloody war, and it's tough, and people suffered, and it's a really surprising story, and the sequence of battles are as important to learn as they are in, say, World War II or the Civil War or Vietnam, in terms of why we're sitting here talking this morning.
Yeah. I grew up in the Boston area, so I know so much about what happened leading up to the war. But then once the war starts, it's like, all right, Washington crossed the Delaware, yada, yada, yada. They surrender at Yorktown. Then boom, we're a country.
Basically Hamilton.
Basically Hamilton. And I probably know more than some people. I wanted to show you one clip of two of our coworkers talking about the Revolutionary War. And I don't know if you'll be shocked or if you'll be like, no, that's par for the course with most Americans.
Why did we get into a war, and who was it with?
All right, I know the war was with the Brits. Mm-hmm. They were taxing tea, right?
There was tea involved, yeah.
But it was mainly taxes.
I think you're spot on. We had a bunch of people who came over in the Mayflower. And what religion were they?
Were they Catholic?
Protestant.
Protestant, okay.
What do you see in that word?
Protest?
Yeah, that's exactly what they were. They were sick and tired of the Catholic Church taxing them pretty much for trying to be religious, I'm pretty sure. So that's the main reason why we wanted our independence. George Dubb, he organizes a ragtag crew. These guys are farmers. They're fucking throwing rocks. They don't have guns. We're fighting the Brits in New York City. Britain has this big navy, and they're just crushing us. We're just basically trying to survive, and we're still retreating till the Delaware River. What happens when we reach the Delaware River? This is in December, okay?
Okay, so it's cold.
It's cold. Christmas Eve. They hired a bunch of guns for hire from Germany. What were they called?
Hitmen.
Well, Hitler wasn't alive.
Germans.
Hessians. These guys are getting fucked up on Christmas Eve, right?
Like boozing or
Boozing.
fucked up?
No, boozing. The American troops surprise them on Christmas Eve. So we go in there and we fuck them up. So essentially after that, we kind of won the war.
We won the war on Christmas?
Pretty much. So the Treaty of Paris, 1783, the boys are declared winners.
I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but why Paris if we fought Brits?
That's way above my pay.
All right.
Okay, so where do you want me to begin? Taxes, yes, but secondary. Taxes and representation, secondary probably to Indian land, because the colonists are there on the eastern seaboard and they want to go over and just take Native American land. But the Brits now, be careful what you wish for, won the French and Indian War, which is actually a global war, which the rest of the world calls the 7 Years' War. And they said, we can't afford to protect you, so you can't go across the Appalachians. So people are really pissed off. Not just normal families that want 125 acres to start and own land for the first time in 1,000 years. You're from Wales, Scotland, Ireland, England. Your family has worked the same piece of land for somebody else for 1,000 years. But now the chance to own it, that's a big deal. So Indian land, I put number one. Then taxes and representation. That's number two. So then where do we go from there? What did he say? So crossing the Delaware, he retreats across. New York was the big stronghold. It fell due to an error of George Washington's tactical mistake he made, the mistake of all mistakes, in the biggest battle of the Revolution, in the Battle of Long Island. And only by sheer luck and fog was he able to retreat and get back to New York, which he eventually had to give up. And from September 15th, 1776, until after the Treaty of Paris, November 25th, 1783, you do the math, that's 7 years and 2 months, New York is the British stronghold, but they also are a stronghold throughout New Jersey. He crosses the Delaware, and it's not on Christmas Eve, it's on Christmas night. They don't get there till early in the morning of the 26th. No indication that the Germans have been drinking or whatever. The Americans did find a store of rum and broke into it, and Washington had it destroyed, worried that his troops would become drunk. There are so many battles before that, like Bunker's Hill, that are worth talking about. So many battles like Kips Bay, like the Battle of White Plains, like all this guerrilla warfare in New Jersey, and then what's coming up in Pennsylvania at Brandywine and Paoli Tavern and Germantown. The British take Philadelphia as well, and then they decide to retreat from it. There's a big battle in New Jersey called Monmouth Courthouse, and nothing happens in New England per se, and the central states. The southern strategy of the British, well, maybe we can't hold on to all the states, let's get a few back. And they go south, they take Georgia, Savannah, they take Charleston eventually, and then they move into, because guerrilla war in South Carolina is so bad, New Jersey and South Carolina are the places you don't want to be. And then Cornwallis, defying his orders from his superior in New York City, the main center of British stuff, he just heads up into North Carolina and then into Virginia and chooses the worst possible place to have his, which is Yorktown. Washington's already warned his own men, don't ever try to have a sizable force at Yorktown. And then by that time, the French have come into our side, because I haven't mentioned all the battles in the Northern Campaign. We tried a failed invasion of Canada. Sound familiar? Trying to make it the 14th state, not the 51st state. That fails. We battle over Ticonderoga and all these different places. Burgoyne comes down with a big army led by British soldiers, Hessian, German fighters, and Native American allies of the British, and loyalists who are in every state fighting for the British, serving as spies for them. And they lose at Saratoga unexpectedly. An entire army surrenders, and that's the key to the French that they're going to come in.
Our
That's the
bosses lost a lot at Saratoga, too.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Well, people continue to lose at Saratoga. The hero of the Battle of Saratoga is
Benedict Arnold.
Benedict Arnold, who, from the unbelievable approach through Maine, the Hannibal of the American army, is one of the attackers, failed attackers, severely wounded in the left leg at Quebec. Heals, comes back, is the fightingest general. Washington sends him up there to help the relatively new guy, Gates, who will prove to be a coward when he's dispatched south. So you're talking about unbelievable military stuff that's going on that isn't just Trenton, some fairly minor thing. The next battle at Princeton's more significant, and the battle at Monmouth is even more so. It's sort of a draw, but the British have gotten their supply train back to Sandy Hook, and they've been able to get their loyalists and their men back to New York City and protection, and so they've abandoned the battlefield, and the Patriots are still there. So we consider it an American victory, one of the moves. But then, of course, the big thing to happen is Yorktown, where Washington has got like 19,000 men. That includes almost half of them are French. He's got the French Navy that has just beat the British out in the opening of the Chesapeake Bay. It's allowed the French guns from Newport to come down and go up the James, not the York River, to Williamsburg, and then travel across to siege Yorktown. And then finally, there's the famous surrender. And even then, you're only October of 1781, and it isn't until 1783 that the Treaty of Paris. And the reason why it's Paris is because they are our ally, and our revolution is not just a fight between us and the Brits, but another world war for the prize of North America. Spain is on our side. The Netherlands are on our side. They are fighting it not just here, but in the Caribbean and in Gibraltar and in the subcontinent of India and what is now the Philippines. It's a big deal for the world because everybody wants this prize. And in the end, the Treaty of Paris gives this new country, recognizes the existence of the United States, and gives us all the territory to the Mississippi, meaning native peoples that were there from the Appalachians to the Mississippi, you're gone. Mm-hmm. And so this territory is the Treaty of Paris, is now ours. Chicago is ours.
Yeah.
So it looks like you do know a lot about the American Revolution.
Yes. And
That's just the military stuff. There's so much
Yeah,
going on
but-
diplomatically, socially. You know, there's not just the native peoples involved, like 500,000 of the nearly 3 million people who live in the 13 colonies are enslaved or freed Black Americans. There's Native Americans living among the colonists who have intermarried or are in support and end up destroying ancient alliances they've had because the Native Americans have had to choose to go with the British or to go with the Americans. You know, the Americans, all they want is your territory.
Yep.
Remember, they didn't call their Congress or their army the clinging to the Eastern Seaboard Congress. They called it the
Continental, yeah.
and they called the Continental Army. They knew exactly where they were going. And Continental meant San Francisco, right? I mean, that meant eventually we're going to take it all. And that's going to be, we like to pretend that there's no empire involved in our stories. 300 nations in what is the political boundaries of the continental United States. So that's a very complex story
For sure.
to tell.
And-
And not at all. They're Native Americans who fight valiantly for the Patriots. Rebecca Tanner, remember Sullivan, the woman Sullivan in World War II, Mrs. Sullivan? There's a Japanese torpedo that sinks a boat and she loses 4 sons. The Army makes the decision, Department of War, makes the decision that nobody is going to, all families have to be split up, which gives us lots of relief for mothers and Saving Private Ryan, right? Rebecca Tanner, she loses 4 sons, Mrs. Sullivan. Rebecca Tanner, a Mohegan woman, probably means Connecticut, loses 5 sons fighting for the Patriot cause. I know of no other sacrifice as great as that mother's sacrifice there.
Yeah.
I mean, that is remarkable. 5 and losing
I'm sorry,
that.
I didn't mean to.
No, for sure. And
I'm
I guess,
trying to answer
well,
this stuff.
Yeah,
just to
that's
clarify to them, the war did not end with George Washington crossing the Delaware.
And then it just
That-
jumps to Yorktown. No,
there was another
George
5
Washington
years, or-
crossing the Delaware is in December 25th, 6th of 1776. Okay, the battle surrender at Yorktown takes place in October of 81. You do the math.
Yeah.
And then the Treaty of Paris and Evacuation Day. Evacuation Day, November 25th, when Washington finally gets to take back New York City, the last stronghold. There's a stronghold in Savannah and Charleston, and the Brits leave. Most of them go to their loyalist allies and their enslaved people go to the Caribbean, and then from New York they mostly go to Nova Scotia, where they've been using Halifax as a base too. Anyway, he doesn't get in there November 25th, 1783. That is like a huge, long period of time. I mean, if you just said boots on the ground in Vietnam is March of 1965. Admittedly, we've been in there with advisors, and they've been growing in numbers, 700 when Eisenhower left, 17,000 when Kennedy was killed. But if you go from March of 65, 8 years, you get to 73. Now, Saigon hasn't fallen, but we've pulled out all combat troops. So we basically said to the South Vietnamese, you're on your own. So we're still, in terms of real boots on the ground and real activity, if you count from Lexington Green, April 19, 1775, to this moment, this is our longest war. It's the bloodiest. It's a civil war. Our civil war is a sectional war. Civil war means death of civilian populations. Doesn't really happen in the Civil War, except in Missouri and Bleeding Kansas. Two dead civilians in the greatest battle ever fought in North America, Gettysburg.
That's remarkable.
But
Wow.
if you're in New Jersey, if you're in eastern Pennsylvania, if you're in South Carolina, as I was suggesting, more British soldiers in one season and Hessian soldiers fell out in forage, meaning in guerrilla stuff, than fell in any major battle. And there's skirmishes and minor battles and stuff by the hundreds in South Carolina. And it is, one moment a certain area might be dominated by the British, and therefore the Loyalists are taking it out on their Patriot neighbors. And all of a sudden something shifts and the Patriots are winning and they're taking it out on their Loyalists. It is a war, and I think we don't want to deal with that because we worry that it diminishes the big ideas because we've buried the lead here. Mm-hmm. July 4, 1776, there's something new in the world, which is this idea that people are not subjects of an authoritarian, but free citizens. That's the biggest deal on earth. And the second sentence of the Declaration is the second most important sentence in the English language after I love you, right? That's obviously the best one. Then the second one is we hold these truths to be self-evident. There's nothing self-evident about these truths. They have just not been introduced into the bloodstream,
Yeah,
right?
same.
There's nothing self-evident. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And happiness, to all of the founders, was not getting stuff in a marketplace of things, but lifelong learning, where you acquired the virtue and all the great characteristics that would allow you to be a citizen, to be informed and thoughtful. So all authoritarians want you to be superstitious peasants distracted by conspiracies, right? No. Reading. Adams himself said, I study war and politics so that my son may study commerce and trade, so that my grandson may study music and arts.
Wow.
And that's the American dream. That's the pursuit of happiness. I've done all my films in PBS. What's PBS about? Lifelong learning.
Yeah.
I made a film about the national parks. What's the national parks?
Yeah.
The Declaration of Independence applied to the landscape. Who gets to own the best land? The kings? Mm-mm. The noblemen? Mm-mm. The most rich? Do you see these mansions lining the Grand Canyon or Zion?
I'm fired the fuck up, Ken. I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
I'm fired up.
Well, this is what we need. So in a period when everybody's sort of like in a fetal position, what the hell are we doing? Is this the end of the American? So you go, no. As a Hessian, so we follow everybody. We call balls and strikes in this, right? Loyalists aren't bad. You understand who they are. They're essentially conservatives. Why would I change all my prosperity, my education, my health, and my land? It comes from this British Constitution. Why would I want to change it for this radical idea? Democracy meant to them the rule of the mob. Democracy wasn't the object of the revolution. It was a consequence of it. Because you know who did the fighting and dying in the end? It wasn't those landowners. It wasn't the sturdy militiamen that we see in the statues. It was teenagers. It was ne'er-do-wells. It was fuck-ups. It was, second and third sons without a chance of an inheritance. It was recent immigrants from Germany and England. They did the fighting. That was the Continental Army. They won. And suddenly at the end you go, whoa, we need to actually honor them. I mean, as Washington said, it's a standing miracle. So we follow, a Hessian wife. We follow loyalists. We follow 14-year-old patriot who joins John Greenwood from Boston, 14 years old, ends up being the dentist to George Washington. Not a mention of wooden teeth in our film. He replaces his teeth with porcelain from a rhinoceros. Okay? Just helping you with all the stuff. Where George Washington slept really mattered in New Jersey. Really mattered. And that's why those signposts that everybody makes fun of are completely legitimate. The whole survival of the country. If there's only one person responsible for the success of our revolution, a lot of people contributed to it, but if he's caught, killed, or surrendered, it's all over. And that's George Washington, the single most important person. So where he sleeps and what decisions he makes, what bad decisions he makes are super, super important. So we follow this German soldier who's incredibly contemptuous of the whole thing. And he's been hired to help supplement the German army, the British army, which has been diminished. And he just is disdainful all the way through. And he's part of the surrender at Yorktown. And he says, at the very end, the last word of our Yorktown scene is, who would have thought out of this rabble could come a people who could defy kings?
Wow.
And that's the story of us. Not just the U.S., but it's the story of us. It's an intimate attempt to try to take the onus off all those paintings and drawings that make you think, you look at Lincoln at Antietam and these deer with George McClellan, and he's pissed, and why didn't you follow Lee? And, all this sort of, you can see that. But here you don't have, just have these paintings and stuff. So we've added maps, we've filmed reenactors very impressionistically from above and drones and at night, just their hands trying to warm themselves over a fire at night. And, after a while you begin to think, okay, I know what it was like. And if you see enough bayonets moving at you and you understand muskets and their inaccuracies, beyond a certain number of yards, that most of the killing and dying happens with a bayonet, which is not a particularly fun way to go.
I'm a Marine and fought in Fallujah. And one of the things about that, I told him, I think the last week or something like that, the most terrifying phrase that you could ever get on the battlefield is fixed bayonets.
Yes.
And like, we fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, more Afghanistan for 20 years. And the American conscience is so short right now, like the attention span, like it wasn't even covered in news. It wasn't covered in like presidential debates for a long time. How did they keep focus on what they were doing for that period of time without as much news as you could get now? How did they keep motivated to keep pushing forward and the civilian population supporting that?
I've been out on the road for months and months. I haven't had as smart a question as that.
Let's go.
Thanks.
One of the reasons why the American Revolution is successful is that they begin to know each other. Back when they were colonies, Benjamin Franklin is the postmaster. He's the only person who really understands all 13 colonies from New Hampshire to Georgia. And he's insisting that we build post roads, because if you mail a letter to Charleston from Boston, it goes through London, right? But all of a sudden, in the 1760s, as their grievances are beginning to come up, 1763, you can't cross the Appalachians. We need to help. You need to help pay for your defense and our depleted treasury. So we're going to tax stamps. Nope, we're not. We're going to take that back because your protest was so great. And so we kind of get them to back down. But there's lots of activity, and people are developing these committees of correspondence. People are very literate, and they're reading these newspapers. And instead of getting their news, as we get today, from self-selected stuff, well, I'm a conservative, I'm only going to listen to this stuff. Well, I'm a liberal, I'm only going to listen to this stuff. They're getting it from everything. My little town in New Hampshire, where I've lived for 46 years, Walpole, on the Connecticut River, it had a Walpole Gazette, which was read in Georgia. People, waited to get the mail and read it, and they read it out loud. And so when people are talking about liberty, and people are complaining that the king is making them a slave, they're reading it out loud at a dinner table. And if you're in the South, mostly, though there's slavery is legal in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, it's just not as much. Guess who hears the liberty talk, as a historian in our film, Jane Kaminsky, says? Very, very leaky, she goes. So the people hear that and go, liberty, freedom, I don't have to be a slave. I mean, so that it's deeply significant, as another scholar, Maggie Blackhawk, says in our film, to the people in the margins. They're hearing these new ideas. Remember, this is an argument between Britishmen that suddenly breaks out into big natural laws. All men are created equal. All of a sudden, it isn't like, why did you not let me decide whether I could have that tax? Or why am I paying for, that's the other thing. The Puritans were Protestants, but they were a Protestant sect. That Protestant Reformation had already happened. Henry VIII had been excommunicated. Protestantism was the religion of England. By the time the colonists come, they weren't about the Catholics. So Catholics enter in because when the Americans win, and when the British win in the French and Indian War, 7 Years' War, they also get Quebec, which is French-speaking and Catholic, and they do stuff that helps keep them in line. And we're all our Protestant sects in the States, and it's Methodism, and it's Baptist, and it's Presbyterian, and it's Episcopal or Anglican. They would have called it Congregational in New England. All of these different Quakers in Pennsylvania, they would go, what? You are privileging the papists in Rome? That's another big anxiety that moves towards war. So all of these grievances sort of build up, but they're talking to one another, and they're learning stuff, and they have people like propagandists like Samuel Adams, by the way, a failure as a brewer, but he's really, really, really
that
good.
Cherry beer is absolutely an abomination.
Well, he was a failure as a brewer back in the day. Sam Adams today, with his namesake, is a decent brewery.
Anyway, he said his job was to keep his fellow Americans alive to their grievances. So he would, suddenly the Sons of Liberty would disband because they weren't going to do the Stamp Act after. Well, sorry, we're not going to put it in effect. You win. And then everybody goes, like that. And, that happens all the time. And people are going, no. There's another moment when after Lexington and Concord and after the Battle of Bunker Hill, Washington still has the British surrounded. They don't have any big guns, so they can't really bombard and drive them out of Boston. The Boston can go in and out. They got the world's biggest navy. So it's kind of a stalemate for months and months. And then he sends Henry Knox to go get the cannon at Ticonderoga that Ethan Allen, a vigilante from a contested area of both New England and New York called Vermont, it's not a state, and Benedict Arnold, your friend, comes.
Classic Don.
Comes. Henry Knox is a bookseller, and pulls these cannon all the way across the Berkshires on sleds, brings them to Washington, and the British wake up one morning and look, and there are guns up in Dorchester Heights, and they said, we're out of here. They go to Halifax, the New England.
Knox was like a pretty fat guy, too. So that's
Knox
like,
was a big, burly guy. Yeah, he's a wonderful, wonderful character. And his wife, Lucy, has lost everything in the war. Her father, her mother, her brother, and her sisters remain loyalist. And so she makes a decision to marry someone who's a patriot. She loses that entire family, you know? Talk about awkward Thanksgivings, you know? It's tough. So the Brits leave to Halifax, and Massachusetts goes, thank you, General Washington. Please enjoy your retirement. He goes, what are you talking about? I'm going to New York, because that's where he's going next. And in fact, he goes. And because New York is so big, and because he's understaffed, and because he makes a bad decision, he loses the Battle of Long Island and loses New York. I mean, this is as exciting a tale. And I'm not even getting into anything that isn't really not military. But they know what's going on because they're informed. And they're not informed by the news they want to hear. They're informed by the news that is true. And they hear different opinions and takes on that news. And so they're making decisions. People there, I mean, maybe the big question is to say of all of us in this room, you know, who would I have been? Could you have been a loyalist? And the answer is most definitely. Mm-hmm. Could you have been a patriot? Yeah. That means you're willing to die for this new cause. That's me willing to kill someone else, maybe your neighbor. One of the most poignant scenes is at the Battle of Bennington, which is a British loss. There is a loyalist that we've been following since episode 1. This is now episode 4. And he's on a parapet of a redoubt that's about to fall, and he hears a voice say, Peters, John Peters is his name, you damn Tory, another name for loyalists, just as he recognizes a childhood friend from New Haven, where he grew up, putting a bayonet into his chest, which is deflected by the bone. And he says, John Peters says at that point, I was obliged to destroy him. Kills a close friend growing up, cousin of his sister's. I mean, that's our American Revolution too. It's a very violent civil war, and that out of it came the greatest country and the greatest set of ideas and inspiration for revolutions for more than 2 centuries that'll take place all around the world.
Now, this might follow up my good question with a poor question, but like the Salem witch trials, for example, when everyone was starting to say, oh, witch, in order for them to die, essentially. Was that common where somebody would say, you're a loyalist or you're a patriot?
So it happens more patriots on loyalists. The tar and feathering, which we make a joke of. Which was
brutal.
Which is, if you think of Fallujah and Abu Ghraib and the treatment of, is nothing compared to what tar and feathering is put on it.
Yeah.
The historian Maya Jasanoff said, just think about it. You're stripped naked. Itself a humiliation. Boiling pitch is put on you, and then the feathers are added as a kind of another humiliation because it'll stick to the pitch. And it's, there's one that we described. This guy didn't walk for 8 weeks. He was just a customs guy, and he knocked somebody out who was his sled had bumped into him, and he got angry at the kid, and then somebody came up to defend him, and he knocked the other guy out, and then a mob took over. But it's very common in these committees of correspondence and all of the things that was happening town to town, in which you would open your neighbor's mail, and you would find out their sympathies, and if they were loyalists, that you would be printed in the newspaper, you'd be ostracized and whatever. There was really... it's not the Salem witch trials. People weren't being put to death in that way, but later on, when things get pretty tough, particularly in New Jersey and very particularly in South Carolina, people are being done. You'd have a battle in the Carolinas where there'd be a British officer leading the loyalist, and everybody else is an American killing each other.
Is that opening the mail? Do you think that's why it's against the law now?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is less sympathy for the loyalists than it is a sense of privilege. By the end, they finish 1783 when the Treaty of Paris comes, and their Articles of Confederation are nothing. They're toothless, as we say in the film. They can't do a thing. And the army's upset, and there are people who are going to mutiny and run that army, and Washington puts it down, then resigns his commission just to show that it's not about power, but they have to figure out something. So in 1787, 4 years after that Treaty of Paris, they meet in Philadelphia again. They pull George Washington out of retirement. Please be the president. And for 4 months, they hammer out this thing, the Constitution, filled with beautiful, they write the code for us, and it's got a beautiful preamble, but the rest of it is just code. And it's how to protect against dictators. It's how to protect against, the balance of power, all these sorts of things, and everybody's happy with it. Compromises, some of them incredibly tragic. The southern states want their enslaved populations counted as three-fifths of a person, which gives them an advantage in terms of representation in Congress, and therefore eventually throughout the first years of the Republic in the White House. But there's no advantage for the people who are counted as three-fifths of a person. So slavery continues. Native Americans are losers. Women aren't considered, the poor. So there's lots of mistakes. But before it's ratified, everybody also wants the Bill of Rights, which the Bill of Rights has said, look what we've fought for. Yeah. We need some of these things back about, freedom of the press, right? Freedom to assemble and address your grievances, and no establishment of a religion. They've seen that the history of the world is religious conflicts, and that when a state favors one religion, it helps exacerbate those things, and so we're not going to do that here. And so that's all the First Amendment. Those are all three things of the First Amendment that I meant. That's the thing that people wanted most of all. And then the Second Amendment, which it gets entirely misunderstood today, which means I can go and buy a tank and blow my neighbors up if I think he's like encroaching on my property, was just like we understood what it was like to have a standing army in our midst, and that we wanted to be able to protect ourselves and the right to have your arms, because in many repressive monarchical societies, they had taken away guns. No danger. There are more guns than Americans. There's no danger of that happening. It's just, what the Second Amendment says, a well-regulated militia. Every town had a militia. They trained, they understood, everybody knew about gun safety. So there was that. So we all through the 10 Amendments is an attempt to say, yep, you've written the system, the code to make this thing work, but the beauty of it has to be what we've just sacrificed. Mm-hmm. And that is, how do we create this new thing? How do we said, as Thomas Paine says, not since the time of Noah, right, do we have a chance to reset? How do we do this reset and do it right? And that is the Declaration, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. That's the operating manual for us.
You mentioned how the war tore families apart. I know that Ben Franklin's own son was a royalist.
Can I tell? It's so he was the royal governor of Virginia. He'd sort of gotten, and Franklin was kind of like half there and half there. We spent a lot of time in England kind of lobbying for the colonies, and William got very much involved in society and was very much part of it. For example, when King George was crowned, he was down in the main part of Westminster, and Franklin was way up. The dad was way up in the balconies. He didn't have that privileged position. So William was the royal governor of Virginia, of New Jersey. He was deposed, and he eventually was sent to a prison in Connecticut, and finally his wife is sick, and there's entreaties to the Congress to let him go. Benjamin doesn't enter in at all. Very tough family stuff. The wife dies. Finally, they let him out, presuming he'd go back to his beloved England. He starts a terrorist organization killing patriots, just as there are patriot organizations. And finally, at the end, and Benjamin Franklin has essentially taken William's own son as his own and raised him as his grandson. And they have a meeting before Franklin leaves England for good, in which he basically says, you're giving up all property, including your rights to your son, my grandson. And William does that. He's trying to make repairs, and Franklin is like, you're dead to me. I mean, that's what happens when a real civil war happens within a country. And, the Sisters of one of the generals who dared to say that the Southern generals that dared to say Lee had made a mistake at Gettysburg, which Lee made a tremendous mistake at Gettysburg. His sisters turned their brother's portrait face to the wall, when he accepted an ambassadorship to Turkey in the Grant administration. He was that, despised.
Wow.
Was there anybody across your research that you really just became enamored with and you wanted to just keep going and going and going in your research?
Yeah, George Washington, because, he's deeply flawed. He's rash. He rides out on the battlefield and nearly gets killed. And if he is killed, that's it. It's over for us. And
So there's
makes these
no chance we would have won the war if he died?
None.
Another great man wouldn't have risen up?
I don't think there's anybody who had the ability to understand. He was taller than everyone else. He had a reserve. He's unknowable. So I want to keep trying to get to know him. Josh Brolin reads off camera. We have the best cast list ever.
It was when we got it sent to us, I was like, this is essentially the front rows of the Emmys.
Yeah, that's right. And
Now, did he just volunteer to?
No, I
you
heard his
reached out?
voice. I was listening to watching Dune 2, and I'd fallen asleep, and then I was desperate to find the right Washington voice, and I heard this voice while I was kind of nodding off, and I picked up on an airplane back from the Rome Film Festival where we were showing our only non-American film on Leonardo da Vinci. And I went, that's it. And so we called him up. He said, love to. And it was great. But we'd already had Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep and Laura Linney and Sir Kenneth Branagh and Claire Danes and Hugh Dancy and Matthew Rhys and Domhnall Gleeson and Liev Schreiber and Ethan and Maya Hawke and Michael Keaton and Paul Giamatti, Mandy Patinkin. It is. I don't think there's a cast in any feature film or TV series that's as good as this. Reading off camera, help bringing them alive. So George is the one you're going to pursue to end, and you're never going to know him. He's going to be just an enigmatic, the way even people in our lives that are enigmatic to us, and the people closest to us remain mysteries in some way, shape, or form. But there's lots of people. We introduce you to all of the boldface names, so you want to know a little bit more about John Adams, you'll get him here. Paul Giamatti is fantastic, bringing him alive humorously and very seriously. His wife, Abigail, read by Claire Danes, may be the best writer of the period. They're young African-American writers. There's several African-American characters. There are Native American characters. And so what we try to do is bring to life literally scores of people that you've never heard of, and all of them, they may not have had their painted. 99.9% did not have their portraits painted. That didn't mean they didn't exist or fought or are central to the creation of our government. So how do you make them come alive? Sometimes it's a signature when they sign up and enlist. Sometimes it's the death notice. Sometimes it's the gravestone. Sometimes it's Rebecca Tanner lost 5 sons, a list like that. Sometimes it's a house. Sometimes it's just nothing, but you have their words from some recollection that somebody had, and you work with scholars and you try to figure out what you can tell and make somebody come alive. We have no picture of John Peters, the loyalist. There's one portrait of Benedict Arnold, not so good, and we spent most of the years, this took us almost 10 years to make, finding another one, and we finally found another one that worked better because, of course, there's nothing in the United States. We were at West Point back in February, and we showed a scene to like 1,600 cadets in a big auditorium, and when the word was his name was Benedict Arnold, they booed into the next clip that we were showing, the fade to black clip from episode 3, and we went in, they were still booing, and it turns out they don't serve eggs Benedict at West Point. They served eggs MacArthur, because they don't even want a single, because he was going to surrender West Point, which Washington considered the most strategic point in all of America. It's kind of a gateway to the Brits coming down from Canada, and he was degrading it. He had, after being wounded in the same leg at Saratoga, he was made the military governor of Pennsylvania when the Brits evacuated Philadelphia, and he stays in the same house as the Loyalist guy who used to run it. He's hanging out with Loyalists. He falls in love with the Loyalists, and then there's a British spy. He's introduced to a guy named Major John Andre, and over the next many months, they hatch up this plan, and it's in code. We found the stuff. We decoded this. I mean, people have decoded it, and Andre got caught and hung. And Benedict Arnold got away, and for a while was sent in charge of a loyalist legion of troops into Virginia, where he would just wreak havoc. And his group was called the American Legion. You cannot make this up. And finally he gets pulled out and goes to England, and you lose the trail because, he's
American
Benedict Arnold.
Legion. That was a big time rebrand.
Oh my God! I mean, it was so painful to Washington to lose this. It was painful to the entire country. And people would talk about Nathaniel Gates would say stuff like, "This is probably the second best general after Washington." Nathaniel Gates says, if we find his leg, we'll give it a proper military burial and everything else.
What a legendary line. We wanted to ask you that too. We were talking about it yesterday because there is so many glowing quotes like, "I've given you a democracy if you could keep it."
Yeah, a republic if you can keep it. That's Benjamin Franklin again.
So is there any of those quotes that you came across where it's just absolutely fluff that these quotes didn't exist?
Yeah. So thank you. That's the thing. First of all, you will never hear, as I said, wooden teeth.
Okay.
You will not hear the name Betsy Ross. We do not know who made the first flag.
Whoa.
You won't hear "Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes." That supposedly the admonition to patriots as the British are marching 3 attacks, the third of which is finally overwhelms the American guns. We've run out of ammunition. But it's a Pyrrhic victory for the Brits. They have 40% casualties, and they won't have 40% casualties until 1916 in the Somme, in one of the worst battles of World War I. That's how bad a victory it was for the British at Bunker's Hill, which of course takes place on Breed's Hill. Bunker's Hill is part of it, and back and on the American left flank, and not as filled with the action, but it became known as that. There's a spy caught, an American spy, one of the big spies that Washington had set up a special, like it would be sort of the equivalent of the SEALs or the Green Beret Special Forces, but spies. After the British take over New York a couple days later, there's a suspicious fire, which everyone is certain is Washington's doing. He's left it, and he sent somebody back in to burn it down. He applied to Congress for the ability to do that. They said, no, don't burn it down. And somebody did, and as some good fellow is what Washington referred to him. So you don't know whether it happened, but when they caught a spy that was so angry, his name was Nathan Hale, and a British officer just noted that he went to his death with great composure. And there was no utterance of "I regret that I have but one life to live for." So as you dig deep, a lot of the tropes fall away, but what gets replaced are much more interesting facts. Like that charge up, they're holding their ammunition, first 90, and then it's 50, and then it's 30 yards because they're running out of ammunition. And then when you understand the Pyrrhic victory it is for the Brits, and that statistic that they're not going to have 40% casualties until the first day of the summit, 1916, then you realize, oh wait, this isn't my grade school American Revolution. This is really a tough battle. And there are some battles out in western New York where it's engaging many native tribes, some like the Oneidas fighting us, some like the Senecas and the Mohawks fighting for the Brits. And the deaths are so numerous in the Battle of Oriskany, for example, that the Native Americans just pack up and leave because they've never experienced this kind of death, and they want time to grieve. And so we sort of extend to them, as Jefferson says in the Declaration, the merciless Indian savages at our border. But you begin to wonder,
just that smell alone had to be horrific. Because, if you've never been around it, the way when you open up somebody, just one, it takes the whole area and you can smell it. I can't imagine what 40% casualty rate at that time with the size of the projectiles that would go through would make.
What you find is from recent wars, we have people who survive with unbelievable loss of limbs, 3 or 4 sometimes limbs. You're not finding that in the Revolution. People are dying, right? You're not finding that in the you might find a leg, somebody survives. The 1/5 or 1/4 of the state budget of Mississippi in 1866, the year after the war, went to artificial limbs.
Oh my
Jeez.
God.
Okay, so Yeah, it's not fun. And we were pushing a Marine in our Vietnam series to sort of talk about what he'd done. He had a chest full of medals, like a couple of actions short of a Congressional Medal of Honor. And he just says, he stops us, stop kind of pushing me into telling you about this stuff. He says, it's the history of the world. That gave a title to our 8th episode of the Vietnam War. Like, this is what human beings do. And you just wish we could find some way to go from the dispute to the negotiation. But most of the time, there was a history couple, Will and Ariel Durant, a man and wife who'd spent their life American history writing books about it, very well known. And they determined that it was something like 38 years in all of recorded history where there hadn't been a war. I am sure they missed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Had to.
I'm sure there was some place going on where news never read, or there was not a record where you could say, because this is what we do. And I think I've studied war, and I know you've participated in it. I think in order to be like the canaries in the coal mine, this doesn't work, you know? Sometimes in World War II, our first episode is called A Necessary War. There's no good war. We call the Second World War, which killed 60 million human beings, a good war.
Yeah.
Because I guess we know why, because after Korea and more so Vietnam, where there was division and questions about it, there were no questions about it. So a pilot that we interviewed said, it wasn't a good war, but it was a necessary war in order to do that. And you have to then assume that there are some necessary wars, but then you can't just keep slapping that label on everything in order to make the first human response to kill another human being. I mean, this is, you study war in order to figure out and to remind people how bad it is. Like, here, can I tell you, I made a film on the Civil War that came out in September, exactly 35 years ago, September of 1990. In early August of 1990,
It's kind of messed up that was 35 years ago, too.
Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. And Americans who hadn't been in any struggle for a super long time were really super excited to go to war again, right? We're massing our forces, and something like 85% of people wanted to go to war. And after the Civil War series came out in late September, that number dropped by 25%. And that was just black and white photographs of Americans killing other Americans, but enough to go, oh yeah, this is what happens in war. It isn't an abstract thing, which we've certainly abstract the American Revolution, and you can't do that. You have to say it's as bad as anything, and people behave with all of the venality and all of the virtue, all of the greed and all of the generosity that they ever have. But let's not candy sugarcoat it. This is what Sherman said it, war is hell. He actually said war is all hell. Yeah. And that's a really good thing. And I think it's really important, and I consider it the best review of our film. We had a lot of nice reviews about the Civil War series, but the best one was that number of people enthusiastic to go to war dropped by 25%. Just like, okay, could we just take a breath? And of course, the air war doesn't start until January. It lasts, however long it lasts, and then that first Gulf War is over. But you realize that this question in us, there is something. As one of our Vietnam vets, another Marine, Carl Marlantes, who's written beautifully about this in a novel about his experiences about the war. He said, we're not the dominant species on the planet because we're nice.
Yeah.
I guess I have one question, and it kind of glorifies war in a way, but if you had to choose one colony that had the best troops during the Revolutionary War, what would you say?
I don't think you could say it. The militia, there's a wonderful story. Can I give you the Battle of Cowpens? Because it's so interesting.
Sure.
Nathaniel Gates has run away. He's the supposed hero of Saratoga. The real hero is Benedict Arnold. He's been given command of the Southern Army. The second the firing starts at the Battle of Camden, he races 150 miles into North Carolina, and his career's over. I mean, just first shot, and he's gone. It is given to Nathaniel Greene and to Daniel Morgan, who's a crusty Virginian who's been fighting everywhere. And even though he shouldn't do this, Greene divides his forces, puts Morgan sort of in a western branch that's harassing some stuff in South Carolina, and he's in an eastern, and basically they take the bait, the Brits take the base, and Cornwallis sends Tarleton, his cavalry guy, to a place, and Greene's hoping to get back across, I think it's called the Broad River, but he can't. He realizes they're going to catch up to him, so he's going to make his fight at a place called Cowpens, which is where people bringing their cattle to market graze, and it's no place. It's on the way to Camden. And he tells his militia, who are notoriously unreliable because they leave to go home to plant, they get scared earlier, they've got family at home. He says to his first line, he's going to put his first line of militia, and he says, I want you to fire 2 shots. Now, often they don't fire any shots, and they run, or they find that a couple shots, nothing's fired. It's just fire. Promise me all night the night before. Promise me 2 shots, and then you run behind the lines. Second line, militia, you do the same thing. 2 shots, and you do it. So the third line, Tarleton is like, oh, they're folding just like we knew they would. But they did take a toll, those 2 shots on both lines, and then they run. He goes, we got him. And he races up over the top of a hill, and there's the third line, the Continentals, again. Teenagers, ne'er-do-wells, disreputable sorts, all this sort of stuff, recent immigrants. And they are tough, and they give him a licking, and Tarleton loses a huge portion of his army. And it is the story of the strategy in the South. And so I can't say it's any one group. Washington's always hoping his Continentals are there, but I can tell you about the Marylanders on the right of the American front in the Battle of Long Island that hold the line and keep the Brits from completely destroying the retreating American army for so long. 14 charges, and I think out of 400, only 14 make it back to the American lines, unhurt, unwounded, uncaptured, undead. There's heroics at every step of the way in a military sense.
Each colony played their part in this war.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And people from Delaware and Georgia, some of the least populated, Virginia and Massachusetts and Pennsylvania and New York are the most populous, and they're there. And so we made a point as we went through our telling of these stories, how we combine the narrative with all the other dynamics that are going on, the diplomacy, the worldwide stuff, the Native American stories, the social changes that are taking place, the role of women, 50% of the population, not included in any of these documents, but central. The women keep the resistance alive in the years leading up to Lexington and Concord, and they're there at every battle. There are women attached to all the armies. At first Washington isn't pleased at having to feed the women and an indeterminate number of children, but they're there. And one of my favorite shots is after the Battle of Monmouth, we just have pictures of just the feet of women and children going back over the battlefield, because they're the first ones to go into a battlefield when the fighting stops.
God, that's
to
horrific
collect the dead
for the kids.
Can you imagine?
God.
Maybe find your dad.
Yeah.
Maybe
Holy shit,
whatever it
yeah.
is. I mean, this is this his name was Corporal Tommy Valley, still alive, a good friend of ours. When he said this is the history of the world, I am very sorry to report that this is the history of the world, and what can we do about it? That ought to be the question. And I think by studying war, it helps you take the romanticism off. And no war that we've been involved in has been more romanticized than the American Revolution.
Yeah, have you ever been to the Marine Corps Museum?
Yes.
And I feel like one of the more shocking moments for me that's eye-opening, because you hear about certain battles that have tens of thousands of people that died. And there's a spot in the Marine Corps Museum where you can go to the Battle of Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
And they have the Eagle Globe and Anchors and the Navy Corpsman SEALs that are lining the wall. And when you look at that, and my boss at the time was like, in this battle alone, you could fill up everybody in Cowboy Stadium.
That's right.
That's how many people died.
Or were wounded, yeah. It's they're in the Pacific and World War II. There are battles on islands, just specks in the Pacific that didn't need. There was a Japanese garrison, and somebody said, let's just take it. And there was no reason to. So there were just, as somebody said, 2 scorpions in a bottle. The casualties are completely unnecessary. The main army can just bypass and head towards Japan and starve these people out. You can leave some troops just to make sure they're not resupplied, and they either surrender or they die, but you don't kill lots of Americans fighting them to the death on a piece. I mean, this was in an episode that we called FUBAR. And you certainly know
Fucked up beyond all recognition.
what FUBAR means.
Yeah.
There's
Did not know that.
snafu, situation normal, all fucked up. And then there's FUBAR, fucked up beyond all recognition. And that's what we called our 5th episode of the World War II, because it's just the horrible meat grinding and the decisions that are made and the mistakes that are made that gets lots of people killed unnecessarily. It's bad. But Iwo Jima is just, and Yokohama. I mean, these are, Okinawa are the ones that are just so. And then you think, well, if we invade the mainland, they're estimating, I mean, 292 or 300,000 American deaths in World War II. If you add all the accidents and the missing, it goes up to 408. They're imagining at least that many just dead in the invasion of Japan, and a couple million casualties. And that obviously then means 5 or 6 million Japanese. They're going to be killed if you go through with an invasion. I mean, the arithmetic is impossible. And in fact, one of the scariest things I've ever heard came out of the mouth of somebody who I admire almost more than anyone else in American history, and that's Abraham Lincoln. In the spring of '63, when he loses the Battle of Chancellorsville, and Stonewall Jackson is instrumental in that defeat. He's got another passive, sort of anxious general amongst a whole bunch of Union generals that keep getting replaced, including McClellan and all the names, McDowell and Meade and all of that stuff. He says, this war will come to an end when I find a general who understands the arithmetic.
Wow.
And the arithmetic is the ability to send dead bodies north because you've gained ground. And he found that general. He wins the Battle of Gettysburg the next month with Meade, but he finds that general in the fall from his successes out west. His name is Ulysses S. Grant, and he loses all spring of '64. He loses in the wilderness. He loses at Spotsylvania. He loses at Cold Harbor. He settles into a World War I like trench warfare outside of Petersburg, and they run out of burial spaces in Washington, D.C., and the Quartermaster General Montgomery Meigs loses a son and doesn't have any place to bury him. And he's so angry, he looks up on the hill and he says, bury them in Lee's front yard, meaning he'll never be able to come back here. And what is that land? That is the most hallowed ground of our republic. It's called Arlington National Cemetery. And it's because we ran out of spots. And it's because the arithmetic, he lost at Wilderness. He lost at Spotsylvania. He lost at Cold Harbor. And he kept moving.
Because the North had so many more men.
It had numerical advantage to begin with. They didn't have superior generals. And then it was just, and they had the industrial might behind it. And Grant just understood it was going to be meat grinding till the end. And so there was 2,000 casualties a day. That's dead and wounded coming back to the nation's capital to be dispersed, to have loved ones come and claim them, or to take them home to nurse them, or to watch them die. Walt Whitman was a nurse in one of those hospitals, and it's so poignant what his descriptions were of people. He'd have a soldier say, now fix me. And that meant put my hands together and tie my socks together so that I am upright because I'm about to die. It wasn't like cure me, heal me, wound me. It's now fix me for death.
Jeez. My last question for you, I know you got a heart out. So you've talked about Washington. You talked about how your respect for Abraham Lincoln. If I could set you up to go to a nice little cigar spot, or you can have a whiskey lounge, and you could bring in any person from American history that you just want to talk to for 2 hours, who would that be?
Louis Armstrong. The jazz thing he did.
Really?
I mean, this is the city. Chicago's the city. He came up from New Orleans where it was invented and it began to spread the news. And I say that not because I wouldn't jump at the chance to try to figure out, knock on the door of Washington and say, who's in there really? Who are you really? He'd never give it away. The historian Joe Ellis says maybe Martha got in, maybe Hamilton got in, maybe Lafayette got in, but, not too many other people got into that. That would be, Lincoln would be, of course, important. This is, his home state. He's, after Washington, he's the most important president. And you definitely want to be with him. But you also want to remember that we spend a lot of our time focusing on these dramatic political military narratives, too, understandably. But sometimes the creativity is an important part. Jazz is the art form that is recognized around the world as the thing we've contributed. He's the most important person in music. I didn't say jazz. In the 20th century, he is to music. I didn't say jazz. What Einstein is to physics, what the Wright brothers are to travel, what Freud is to medicine. I mean, it is transcendent. He takes this ensemble music and turns it into a soloist art. He comes up. He after he leaves Chicago, he goes to New York. Duke Ellington sees him and he goes, I want him on every instrument. And he spent his whole life, the next 40 or 50 years, creating an orchestra, the Duke Ellington Orchestra, that had somebody that had not just virtuosity, but personality in each thing. And so he took this soloist art, turned it into ensemble, invented what is called modern time, playing before or after a note, what everyone else calls swing. And in the early days of swing, it was called orchestrated Armstrong. A guy was asked what he needs out during the Depression when you're on the road more than 300 days. He said, toothpaste and a picture of Louis Armstrong. Wow. And then he did the same for American singing. So if we had Frank Sinatra here and Tony Bennett and Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald and said, who's the most influential person in singing? They take this raspy guy with a handkerchief and say, Pops. Not Satchmo, that was one thing, but Pops was his nickname. And he's just amazing. And when we made our series on jazz, no one agreed on anything. They'd actually get into almost fistfights in disagreements over that. But all of them said Armstrong was a gift from God or an angel. And I once asked this woman who, for lack of a better word, was a spiritualist. I said, everybody disagrees on everything on this film I'm working on, except they say that Louis Armstrong's a gift from God or an angel. And she just closed her eyes and said, biggest wings I've ever seen. So there's a part of me that says, we can talk about death and dying. I can manipulate the stuff, the salt shaker, and say this is what Daniel Morgan did at Cowpens, or this is why the Battle of Long Island. This is the mistake, the tactical mistake of leaving the left flank exposed that Washington made there, and then he repeated the same effect with his right flank at Brandywine. I can do all of that stuff, and it's great. And we can talk about it. But at the end of the day, don't you want something that's transcendent? Don't you want it where 1 and 1 equals 3? Don't you want to have the whole greater than the sum of the parts, right? And that difference is in art, it's in love, it's in music.
Your face lit up as soon as you said Louis Armstrong. Your face lit up. It was something that you could tell that you just like.
Yeah, so it's important. And it's also good to throw a curveball now and then to everybody. Like to just say, Washington, Lincoln, of course, FDR. These are the central political figures of the entire history. Without them, we're not who we are. And then, but also realize that it may just come from somebody else. It may come from a carpenter from Bethlehem.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It may be somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And because this podcast is called Drop a Pin,
Yeah.
you can give an abridged answer here. But if you had to drop a pin in one location during the Revolutionary War, which place would you say was the most pivotal, or a place that kind of interests you the most?
Well, the most pivotal for the whole scope of things would be the Battle of Saratoga, where Washington's not at. But I'd sort of want to be a place where he was, to understand at Long Island maybe, in places where my children and my grandchildren live in Brooklyn, that you pass over Gowanus, Bedford, Jamaica, all of these places you hear every day, Kings Highway, all of this stuff is like farmland, and was, that, what it was like when he realized the just glaring error he made, or maybe just what it was like at Yorktown. When, Cornwallis is too humiliated to come out, so he sends his second in command. He told everybody, don't even look at the Americans. They're not worthy of our respect, only the French, right? And so Charles O'Hara, the second in command, hands the sword, tries to surrender to Rochambeau, the French general, and he says, I am subordinate to the Americans. Tries to hand it to Washington, and Washington says, and sends him to his second in command, Benjamin Lincoln, because he's hated the way when Charleston falls, Benjamin Lincoln's army is humiliated and not treated like an army, but treated like rebels and cast aside. So he makes Charles O'Hara surrender to Benjamin Lincoln. I want to be there because as a British historian says in our film, Stephen Conway, the ultimate humiliation, not only to surrender, but to surrender to the second in command, Yeah. And the whole thing, and that's where that foot soldier, Johann Ewald, is saying, who's been contemptuous up to this moment, says, who would have thought 100 years ago that out of this multitude of rabble could come a people who could defy kings? That's you, me, you. That's us. And that's what I hope the series does. It puts the us back in the U.S.
What a way to end the show. My God, there's a reason why he's the best. Ken, we appreciate your time.
It's great to be with you guys. Really, really great. Thank you so much for your great questions too. Mostly it's, so Ken, why the revolution and why now? And you're going, okay, I just worked 10 years. Why now? Like I timed it to come out just at this moment. We didn't.
Sure.
Sort of like, the happy accidents of us taking our time, and that's all PBS is. Great gift to us is the ability to spend a decade trying to get it right.
Yeah.
In the future, would you ever do a documentary on a topic?
We ended it perfect. Don't. No, we're done. Not another
I just want to know if you'll ever do a non-American history topic.
We'll ask him after. That was the perfect way to spot, Ken. Thank you so much. Boom.
Mic drop. Drop a Pin is brought to you by Marzetti. Cool down the flame when you dip with Marzetti Ranch on game day. I personally like to put ranch on my pizza. Love ranch on my wings. I'm not going to die on a hill. It's only blue cheese, only ranch, whatever you got. And if I got Marzetti Ranch, that's what I'm dipping my wings in. So don't fumble your food. Get the good ranch for game day. Even if your team loses a bunch of games this season and your parlays don't pay out, your mouth can still be a winner on game day when you ranch with Marzetti. What are you putting ranch on?
I was actually going to interrupt you and say my favorite thing with ranch, sweet potato fries.
Ooh, yes. Man, that sweet potato fries are better than fries right off the bat, but then you mix in a little Marzetti Ranch.
Dude, I did it.
Another level.
We did it yesterday. We made some sandwiches, some fancy sandwiches that my wife made, and then I put the sweet potato fries in the air fryer, got them nice and crispy, and then put some fresh cracked pepper, some sea salt, and then dipped them in the Marzetti. Unbelievable.
Let's go. And if you want to get some Marzetti, you just go to marzetti.com. Or you can find Marzetti Ranch at your local grocery store, refrigerated by the fruits and veggies. Ranch also goes good on veggies if you're on a health kick. So once again, that's marzetti.com.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our good friends at Blue Chew. Fellas, we enter the room with our dick first. Blue Chew isn't just a tablet, it's a cheat code for your crotch. We're talking stronger, harder, longer lasting, like someone gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sets. We're talking fucking folks. Guys, this isn't just about performance. This is about legacy or third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. When you lay it down, they're talking about how it gets up, gets rock hard and all that goodness. This ain't a supplement. It is a erection resurrection. Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use your promo code DROP at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head to bluechew.com for details and safety info. And big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. Let's hop back into the show. I mean, I've done tons of interviews over the time that I've been podcasting, and that was a highlight for me, for sure.
Yes.
Like, I've talked to Medal of Honor recipients, different people in like Congress and secretaries and all kinds of stuff. But Ken Burns, I've never been more fascinated just sitting across a couch and listening to him talk.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, like, we didn't really have to say much during that interview.
Those are the best kind where you're like, so tell us about George Washington. He's like, well, here we go.
Yeah.
And there was so much stuff I didn't know. Like, I had no idea about the Benjamin Franklin son thing.
Oh, yeah.
Or even, I guess I knew it, but I never really thought about it that in depth. And I've been thinking about it a lot. Like having different fractions in your own house. Like the Civil War, it was the South versus the North. There wasn't a whole lot of infighting between families for the most part.
I think there actually was, though, too. Ulysses S. Grant, his dad was a big Confederacy guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not nearly as much as what's going on here. Like there was distinct lines. Like there was the North versus the South. The American Revolution, it was all over the place, and there was loyalists and patriots on both sides everywhere.
Yeah, each community there you would have like royalists, because a lot of people are like, dude, I don't know if I want to get wrapped up in this war because there is not a strong chance we're going to win this. We're going against the strongest empire in the world.
Yeah,
it's probably easier to just like lay low and not get involved.
How many do you think were like fence straddlers? They were just like, this is none of my business. I just hope everybody has a good time.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, I kind of just want to wait and see which way this war's going before I pick a side. And we didn't get to talk about this on the pod. I think Ken Burns went on a show called Finding Your Roots, and he found out that like if you trace his ancestors back far enough, he was related to some royalists. And I think I, unfortunately, may have been related to some royalists. Because my mom was always like, yeah, our family came over on the Mayflower, but then at some point they moved to Nova Scotia. And I think that's what a lot of the royalists did after the war, because you weren't welcome in the U.S. anymore. So you had to move to Canada or move to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I could tell that you were rock hard when Ken Burns was like, that's one of the best questions I have ever heard.
Dude, I was fucking buzzing for a while.
Dude, props on that.
Thank you.
Happy for you.
I liked like when he said that, you just go, let's go.
Yep. I did. I mean, I knew he was not going to give me a straight up answer when I was like, which colony had the best troops? Like, he's an American guy. He wasn't going to single out just one colony.
Those fuckers in Georgia stunk.
Yeah. He was like, well, you wouldn't want to go to battle with the folks from Georgia. No, he was not going to say that. So he gave props to every colony. There is, like, when you watch his documentary, you will see that there's so much about the Revolutionary War that you just don't know about. I mean, something that I was shocked to learn, because here in America, we love to give the French shit. We're like, dude, we bailed you guys out of World War II. Well, the French also bailed us out of the Revolutionary War.
There is no America without the French.
Yeah, we did not have a navy at all. And France was they sent over tons of big ships. And
Sacre bleu, look what's happening in America.
And the American troops and some French troops, we cornered the British in Yorktown. But if it wasn't for the French Navy, they could have just left. But the French Navy had them like cornered. Blockaded by sea, because they fought a big naval battle against the British and won. So they had no escape and they were forced to surrender. Another little fun fact about the Revolutionary War. Have you ever heard of New Ireland?
No.
Yeah, it was so like the British weren't making a lot of headway. So they were like, let's just set up shop up in Maine. And so they invaded Maine and set up the colony of New Ireland. And it was just like a British stronghold in the war up in Maine that was going to become its own colony. But then they lost the war and had to evacuate.
Maine's a bigger player in a lot of wars than people realize.
Oh, yeah?
Like even World War II. Like
what?
Like there was fortresses and shit built up there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like Maine has got to be one of the closest. It's like the closest part of America to Europe
and Africa.
What? Yeah.
Maine is. There's no state closer to Africa than Maine.
That's a fun fact. Have you asked that on your around the office vids? I did not know that.
Yeah, because based on how it's shaped, it's the closest to Africa.
Mm-hmm. I was also seeing that after the war, because a lot of like slaves, they teamed up with the British, because the British were like, if you fight for us, we'll grant you your freedom. And then after the British lost the war, A lot of them left America and I think went to Sierra Leone and helped like establish Sierra Leone as a country. So there's all these crazy facts that you'll learn by watching Ken Burns' documentary. But something we want to do on this podcast is just go around the office and ask some of our coworkers what they know about the Revolutionary War.
We haven't heard it yet. We're recording this intro before we've even heard them say it. I am so excited to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's going to be much.
Yeah, I mean, how much did you know, I guess?
I thought when we going in, I was like, I'm not like a historian or anything, but I thought I had a decent grasp of what was happening. When he was talking, I was like, I might be stupid. When he was talking.
He's just insanely smart, so he could make anyone feel
even
a little
time
uninformed.
Period. You know, like even time period, how long the time that it took. Like I didn't realize that it was almost a decade.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I mean, as like Dana Beers was saying, he was just like, well, yeah, then Washington crossed the Delaware and boom, that's the war. But no, there was another like 5 years of war after that, maybe 6 or 7.
But it is hard to encapsulate like 8.5 years. And I mean, just hearing him talk in the podcast, that was only an hour and 15 minutes without the visual aids and everything that are coming into his documentary. Once you watch that full thing, which we got an early copy, you walk away knowing so much more.
And I think it's cool because we were saying that only like dudes in their 30s would maybe know who Ken Burns is, but that's not the case. We got white boy Rick in the office. He's like 23 or 24. He's a big Ken Burns guy. Hopefully this podcast helps introduce a younger crowd to the genius of Ken Burns.
Kate is a huge Ken Burns guy.
And Shane Gillis said that Ken Burns is female kryptonite. If he's like, if you're ever with a chick and want to put her to bed, just try the Ken Burns documentary. But apparently that's not the case. If Kate's a big fan. So yeah, even our female listeners, give Ken Burns a chance. You won't be disappointed.
All right, let's get into it with our coworkers and see just how dumb they are.
Okay, Hannah, very simple question today. Okay. Tell us everything you know about the Revolutionary War.
Aw. I was hoping that we were going to talk about the Revolutionary War in France. Like the French Revolution, I mean.
Oh, no.
That's what I was excited about.
No, wrong podcast.
Yeah, I want to talk Les Mis with the boys.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
Fuck.
All right, Eddie, today we would like you to tell us everything you know about the Revolutionary War. No pressure.
I'm going to be honest. I know that this is going to sound really stupid, but I don't know a whole lot. I know that George Washington crossed the river. It was Christmas, right? Around Christmas.
Yeah.
It was cold.
That's right.
And they didn't see him coming.
That's right.
No.
They didn't see him coming. He was standing up in the boat. He had red hair.
We want you to tell us everything you know about the American Revolution.
Oh. Okay.
There's no like right or wrong answer.
Christopher Columbus.
No, there's definitely wrong answers.
Not Christopher Columbus. George Washington.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that was
Columbus.
a great save right there.
George Washington crossing the Delaware.
Everything I know about the Revolutionary War?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can narrow it down to 10 minutes.
1776, man.
17. Now, is that when the war started or the war ended?
No, that's when America declared their independence.
All right, Revolutionary War. I got to say, I admire the outfits.
Thank you.
All right. Basically, I know it ended. Okay, where did it? Actually, we'll go with where it started. It started with the Boston Tea Party. We'll probably start it before that, but
it officially started after that.
Okay, well, they threw all the tea into the Boston Harbor.
Obviously, it's the Brits versus the Americans. It's 13 colonies. Boston Tea Party. I've named everything correctly for the record at this point.
You have.
Yep. So far, you're spot on.
I haven't got super into detail.
No.
But I'm not doing details today. I'm doing everything I know. I'm naming big events.
You know what?
Do you know
I'm having less fun.
who it was against?
Like
who are the two sides
of the Revolutionary War?
Yes, it's also called the Independence War.
Is it not just like becoming America?
It is.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's how we became America.
Yeah, so the British
There
Yes.
you go.
Boom.
Nailed it.
and the Americans,
Yeah.
right? So we had those two.
He sneak attack in the middle of the night
Yep.
on the French.
No. But it was the British and
British shit.
the British
Paul Revere
and the
Paul
Germans
Revere?
and the Germans.
Is Paul Revere, the British are coming?
Yep.
Is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was Paul Revere.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he attacked the British in the middle
the
of the
Germans,
night.
yep.
And the Germans, which was
Hessians.
kind of frowned upon, right? You shouldn't attack in the middle
Yeah.
of the night.
This insurgency
war,
was
just
looked
in
down
war.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. They were like, "Oh, like no, you need to fight us straight up. Don't do all like that sneak attack shit."
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
no, I
guerrilla
mean,
warfare.
when you're fighting the biggest empire in the world, you got to have some tricks up your sleeve.
Exactly.
You got to give him the Kevin McAllister treatment.
Yeah.
Set up a bunch of Hot Wheels and shit
Yep.
for him
Love
to step
that
on.
shit.
His teeth are not actually wooden. That's a myth. They're
Wow.
like slave teeth, which is
Oh, also a myth.
that's a myth too.
Yeah, we actually talk about that earlier in our episode.
So what? I thought it was like donkey teeth and like slave teeth.
No, it was ivory
Yeah.
Really?
from
Yeah.
elephants and rhinos. Yeah.
So that's not as bad as I thought.
No, it's way
Yeah.
better.
I thought.
Yeah, way
when
better than
I
slave
mean,
teeth.
way better.
we won.
We did.
We won.
Shout out to us.
Shout out us. Shout out America. There was some tea thrown in the Boston Harbor at
That's
some
right.
point because they're pissed about the taxes. You're
Yep.
not going to tax our tea, right?
Yep.
Fucking, we loved the idea of freedom, man. Lots of freedoms that we have that we want to fight for. So we'd be like, what the hell? We don't want your tea at all.
The heck.
Oh, true.
And you
Yeah.
know why? Because that was the tea party. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, tea party, that sounds so nice. Wrong. Fucking
right.
so wrong. You're like, I don't want this at all because of the taxes that they put on the teas. We don't want no taxes. This is America. We don't want no damn taxes. And we say that now. We got a lot of taxes.
A lot of taxes. Yeah.
But it's from Americans and not Parliament. So it makes it better.
Yeah.
No
That's when things were
no
heating up.
taxation without representation was the big thing. It was they thought that what became the Americans had no chance because England was such a had colonies all over the world and was so powerful, but they didn't know that these Americans were tough bastards.
Yes.
And had a lot of heart and fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hate England, but we beat them.
That's exactly right.
That's
now,
basically all I know.
we
And
want
Martha
you-
Washington and George Washington had a plantation.
That's true. You
Yeah.
remember what it was called?
Mount Vernon.
Got it. Well done.
Can I tell you guys a secret?
Yeah.
All of that just came from Shane Gillis' stand-up.
Oh, dude, let's go.
I thought you were gonna say Hamilton.
And I also love Hamilton. Hamilton's great, but beautiful.
John Adams.
Yes.
That can't be.
You bring up a really good point. So yeah, like one of the reasons we fought the war was because of taxes. After we won the war and became our own country, I think taxes went way up across the board.
Well, we wanted them in our own special way.
Yeah. At least now we were being taxed by our own country, and people had more say in where those taxes went to, as opposed to just sending the money like across the Atlantic Ocean back to Britain. You don't know what they're going to use that tax money on.
We're to NATO where we spend more money than the rest of the countries combined.
Okay.
So what was it? Taxes. They didn't want kings.
Yeah, no kings. Yeah,
No
That
kings.
Tyrant King George III.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
The
Shout out Shane Gillis.
The king in Hamilton is one of my favorite characters ever.
That Tyrant King George III.
Yeah, when he's like,
When he spits.
can't remind you of my love. Da, 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 da. No, Beautiful Dogs on Netflix. Shout out Shane. He talks about how he went to go visit the plantation in 2020. Tough
Okay.
time to go visit it.
King George III, I learned, he never left the UK, I don't think.
I wouldn't either if I was king.
If you're a kid, but when you're king of the British Empire, you got like domains all over the world. I would want to see him.
I wouldn't. Fuck him.
Yeah, so King George.
I mean, think about how long you got to go on a boat, dude. It's not like you're hopping, like, it's not Air Force One that you can take a little sleepy nap with some nighttime tea that you didn't pay taxes on.
Dude.
You had to take a 3-month voyage.
It is insane how long it took. I think that's part of the reason the British lost, too. They just, it took 3 months to get news back and forth across the Atlantic.
6.
You had to go.
That's probably why it
tell
lasted
the king
8
what
years.
happened, and then the king would be like, okay, well, maybe you should do this, and then another 3 months, and at that point, it's too late.
Let me sleep on it. Sir, you do not have time.
Yeah, this
We got to
happened
get
3
back.
months ago.
They're running out of bullets. The muskets are in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
We created the United States of America because of we won the Revolutionary War.
I mean, I feel like just saying it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, dude.
It means it's a big deal.
It
Yeah,
was,
exactly.
a very
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
Arguably, you could say it's the biggest deal in American history.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, in that case, thank God for Paul Revere.
Paul Revere, yeah. We didn't have a chance to talk about Paul Revere with Ken Burns.
Great
but
point, Anna.
Great guy.
We have modern day Paul Revere's, and that's like
No.
the people in group chats that want to break the news first. It's like a new term now. Paul Revere is so back. It's like,
yeah.
Who's back of the week? Paul Revere.
yeah, for real. Because it's like when Taylor Swift got engaged, you have your Paul Revere of the group chat.
I did
They're
that
like,
yesterday with
Did you?
Jane Goodall.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the people in my group chat
RIP.
were going nuts. They're like
Bananas?
the monkey lady. Yeah,
Wait.
good one.
What happened with Jane Goodall?
Deadzo.
something bad
She just died?
Yeah,
yesterday.
I would have bet 15 years ago she died,
Okay.
but she was 91
Yeah.
years old
Yeah.
on a speaking tour too.
Holy
she died
shit.
while she was on a She was just recently here in Chicago. Well
Damn.
with it at 91 years old. Mitch McConnell could never.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
At some fort? Was it at a fort? Fort. Was this the famous lifting the flag?
Nope, that's Iwo Jima.
I think I think that was Iwo Jima.
That was a smooth 200 years later.
Yeah.
It happened at some fort.
That's true.
There were some forts. There was Fort Ticonderoga.
Oh, like the pencil.
Yeah, exactly
Like the
right.
pencil, yeah. Do you have any idea where Fort Ticonderoga was?
Somewhere in the Northeast.
Kind of, yeah.
Delaware?
Yeah, I think it was
Still they crossed the
way
Delaware River.
Yeah, it was way up in like northern New York.
Oh, wow.
Near the Vermont-New York border. I believe. Yep. That's good.
I believe was it Jonestown?
The Jonestown Massacre?
No, that's not it.
That's
what
what I
was
was
I?
thinking.
I know it was that Cornelius was the general for British.
Cornwallis.
Close. Mm-hmm. And they defeated him in the last battle that, damn it, where was it? I should know this because I used to love the Revolutionary War history.
It does have town at the end of it,
Yeah.
but it's not Jonestown. It begins with a Y.
I don't remember it.
Yorktown.
Yorktown. Okay, I was in the Jonestown, Yorktown. I guess we could say we were sort of in the ballpark on that, but it definitely seemed like. I mean, I felt like the Americans were probably 10% to win it before, but they
I
knew,
like that you're setting the line.
But they knew. Well, I think a big thing with these kind of wars was the Americans knowing all the territory, and I think that's always a huge thing when you're on your home soil. Because a lot of the British Army that got sent over, and they were kind of arrogant about it too, and took some tactics that, the Americans were able to hide militia everywhere, kind of in woods and stuff, and surprise them just knowing the ground.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. Like the Brits had to transport their troops 3 months overseas.
And another key thing I remember was the Americans begging the French Navy for help. Mm-hmm. And they got help on the water from the French Navy toward the end of it, which was a big, big factor.
Yeah, dude, that's
good job,
a very
Nancy.
important factor. I think a lot of people don't realize that. I was saying this before you came on. Like, I know a lot of big football guys who go on to become high school history teachers. Did you ever have that in your cards if you didn't get a job here? No. Okay.
No, I would be like the cool teacher coach, like
PE?
Yeah. I really loved chemistry, honestly, in high school.
Wow.
I memorized, I had the whole periodic table memorized. Everyone was cheating off of me, which never happens.
Dude, that's interesting.
What's
That
your
was my
favorite
least
element?
favorite topic subject.
I don't know.
You have a
I
favorite
always
element
loved
or no?
iron.
Yeah.
Fe. I was always like really just was infatuated. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fascinated by the Fe iron. I loved it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And if you add iron to the bottom of your hydrangeas, it'll change the color.
Really?
So you know a little bit about like why the war started and everything. Do you know
Yeah.
anything about what happened during the war?
Oh, battles and fights.
That's right.
Yep.
And death. And
She's getting emotional.
I just fucking love
War is hell.
founding fathers and shit.
Who do you power rank your founding fathers? You think?
Power rank?
No, let's do Mary fuck kill. You're the founding
Wait,
fathers.
can I like marry, fuck, kill the like Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna fuck Lincoln.
Okay.
He was
no, I'm
not
in-
a founding father.
No, I'm thinking Mount Rushmore. No.
Oh, the folks on the Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. 'Cause,
Okay. Yes.
Actually,
yes,
I'm gonna
okay.
marry Lincoln, Illinois guy. We've got a lot in common. We could talk about it. Who we've got Jefferson, right? Jefferson's on there.
Mary fuck kill the founding fathers. Who do you pick?
So George Washington was 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna marry him.
Okay.
Got to marry some height.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Was he hot?
Was he
I-
hot?
now,
was
listen.
Thomas Jefferson hot?
Was he hot?
I, honest to God, I think.
Okay, we're looking him up.
I
Okay.
think Thomas Jefferson could be my dad. I feel
So
like
it'd be
non
so it would be
yes.
weird if I say that.
Kill
I
that
would-
guy.
So we're
Yeah.
gonna kill him.
Yeah, kill him. Because
and
don't
then-
I kind of have the same bone structure as Thomas Jefferson?
Well, these are also all
longer jaw,
paintings.
shitty nose.
Yep, I can see it. I can see it. If he had a
By
red
the
beard.
way, the hair back then is just atrocious.
Roosevelt, I'm gonna fuck.
Okay, yeah, great
Dude,
choice.
Yeah.
Especially after he got done, like pre-log cutting, he had asthma, so I think that would be rough.
Okay.
But afterwards,
do the
he was
work.
in
I'll do the work for Roosevelt.
He was great. She was in great shape.
Yeah.
And then I think I feel comfortable, like killing. I feel like I can't say that.
No, it's fine.
I
They're
feel
all dead.
comfortable not fucking or marrying Washington or Jefferson.
Wow.
I feel comfortable marrying Lincoln and fucking Roosevelt. I think.
So, who would you kill though?
Like one of like just out, and I can be friend. I don't know. Maybe Washington. I think we have different styles.
Oh my God.
The mouth
he was way,
situation.
He was
Nah,
way
dude.
bigger though.
Really?
And we talk about that
Ken
in the
Burns
pod.
is not going to be happy, dude.
Wait, really?
He said that's
You now have
he said
zero
that's
chance
the
of Ken Burns. Like,
yeah.
I can tell you that much.
Was he?
Yeah,
How
because
are we
it's
doing?
like we all think of George Washington having like white hair. He was actually a redhead,
Yeah,
but they all
shout
wore
out
those
Shane.
wigs.
Because they were embarrassed about it at that point.
Powdered wigs, right?
At that point in America, like around 80% of people had red hair.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, look it up, Sam.
I do not
In
know
the-
about that.
In the
That feels made up.
1700s in America, how many people had red hair?
Also, fuck
I
Aaron
could
Burr.
be way
we
wrong.
We hate Aaron Burr, right?
Yeah, I think we do not like Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr, I think, hatched like a plot to like take over the country, or at least like have his own breakaway country from the U.S.
I was
at one
wildly
point.
wrong.
1
to
to
2%. But
Yeah.
I think maybe that is of the founding fathers because John Adams was, Sam Adams was, Jefferson was, and Washington was.
John Adams was a ginger?
Yeah. John Adams.
I don't really know if they could even really do that type of like data.
Yeah.
He's a
Pack
big
it.
Washington
Yeah,
guy.
and he had an
no
absolute
Washington,
wrench.
no country.
Verifiable.
Yes.
Biggest dick of anybody in the American Revolution.
Wasn't his
So I should have
dick
fucked
made of wood or
Washington?
something like
Huh?
that?
His dick?
Yeah, didn't he have
No,
a
for-
wooden wrench?
Morning.
Narwhal tooth.
Okay. Apparently, he didn't even have wooden teeth. He had teeth made from ivory.
Yeah.
We learned that on the pod.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Elephant
okay.
tusk teeth.
Oh, apparently he had other elephant.
Yeah.
Appendages.
Yes. yes.
Elephantitis, yeah. Oh yeah, because you can buy George Washington's hair online.
No. I'm saying like as a whole, like as a
Like the
a
census?
Group. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you can't like.
Yeah.
when did
Sam
first-
search what percentage of the founding fathers had red hair.
Okay. Hopefully I'm wrong again.
I mean, you said it.
Yeah.
80.
I did. I said 80%. That was
That's crazy.
preposterous. Yeah.
That's wild. The fact that it came up which one owned slaves. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
no,
tough.
I think
That's- that's tough.
most of them did.
It's impossible. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, why would that be impossible? Because we know all the founding fathers. How many founding fathers were redhead? Does it say?
You know what? I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to change my answer. I'm going to kill Thomas Jefferson. I'm going to fuck George Washington because I think he was crazy. But how could you not marry Alexander Hamilton after the love songs that he wrote in Hamilton?
Yeah.
You know, like
Well,
My name is
Lin-Manuel
Alexander
Miranda,
Hamilton.
but yeah.
Yeah, well, also
He also redhead.
but technically he was Hamilton, and for us, you know, he
Yeah.
represents Hamilton. So he wrote a lot of love songs. He did pick the wrong sister.
Yeah.
He did. So maybe
That's exactly right.
So maybe I don't want to marry him because he would pick my sister instead of me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna kill Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
Obviously, George Washington was the main general for the U.S. and then became the first president. Obviously, a huge hero of it. Let's see what else. What were the other battles? What were the other major battles? Yorktown. I'm running low.
I think that's a good start.
I'm
Mincy.
glad I
You did
remembered the
well.
French Navy thing, though.
Yeah, that is good.
I
The
think that's
blockade,
good.
Yeah.
I think it also reinforces a point that a lot of Americans kind of know how the war started and how it ended, but it's the 8 years in between that a lot of people are in the dark with.
I feel like my answer is pretty decent. I feel like there's probably been worse ones than this. I don't think mine was bad.
No.
Yeah,
the
it's
worst
not
one?
bad, but like,
Yeah.
It's the worst one?
Probably.
Oh.
I mean, we've only talked to two other people so far,
You got
Hannah and Mincy.
Mintz.
And what did they say? That
All
was
kinds
so
of
much
stuff.
better than mine.
Mincy crushed it.
Well, good for Mincy.
Yeah. I mean, Hannah didn't say a lot more than you.
Okay,
but
well, let's do what Hannah did well on. Marry, fuck, kill the founding fathers.
I mean, that's actually kind of tough. Because if you, I mean,
I'm obviously fucking Hancock because of his signature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Cox's in his name.
Yeah.
yeah,
Cock is in his name.
Yeah.
That's for
yeah.
sure. So those are two pros. So I'm fucking him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll marry George W. because,
Smart.
He was the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm killing Jefferson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, not a lot of great history behind him.
But he'd be the best blogger.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, maybe John Adams, too. But Jefferson wrote more.
And Jefferson and John Adams had beef, right? They said he was a hermaphrodite or something.
I think
One of them?
I think they did have beef, just because like Jefferson was a very proud Virginia, John Adams was up in Massachusetts. Those are two very different colonies, and those differences eventually led to the Civil War.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I think that's good.
Isn't that the two that died on the same day, too?
Did they?
There's two founding fathers that hated each other that both died on July 4th. I'm pretty sure it's Adams and Jefferson.
Now, do you know you said George Washington was the guy? Why was he the guy?
First president of the United States.
What was his role during the Revolutionary War?
He was a general.
Yeah, he was the general. He was in charge of the American Army, the Continentals.
Exactly. Paul Revere.
Yeah, the Midnight Ride.
Yeah. What do you boys know about Paul Revere?
A lot.
Okay.
I was
too.
right. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. And considering at the time the average lifespan was 52 years old, Adams lived till 90 and Jefferson lived till 83.
That's because when they say average lifespan, it's because back in the day, so many babies would
Infant
die
mortality
in their
was crazy
first
high.
couple years of life, so it just brings down the average lifespan.
But still, people weren't living to 90 that often back in the day.
Yeah, no, that's impressive.
And that's when they were eating all organic and no GMOs.
What was Old Ironsides from?
Old Ironsides?
It's a famous boat.
I think that was from World War II.
I don't, Sam, can you look that up? I think it was an older war because it was one of the first like ironclad boats, maybe War of 1812 or the Civil War.
Could have been War of 1812.
Okay, War of 1812. Yeah, that was a game changer when they started putting iron on boats. Can you name any battles in the war?
Yeah. So
shame.
here's where to be quite honest with you, I will be honest here.
Yeah.
Here's where the Civil War battles and the Revolutionary War battles kind of get intertwined in my brain.
Okay.
Like obviously the first battle I always think about is Gettysburg, but I'm pretty sure that's civil.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
That
Okay.
is civil.
So that's what my brain wanted me to think.
And that actually is a hard question because I think before I watched the Ken Burns documentary, I could only name like battles of Lexington and Concord, Battle of Bunker Hill, Battle of Yorktown. And then it's like the other battles I just didn't really know much about until I really dove deep.
Yeah, I've never dove deep, to be clear.
That's fair.
Yeah. No.
I've never
That's fair.
dove. Yeah, I've never dived.
And it seems like you watch a lot of Shane Gillis stand-up
so you might know who this guy is. Can you tell us anything about Ken Burns?
Why Ken Burns? Why do I know that?
Shane Gillis referenced him during his Saturday Night Live monologue.
Oh, he's the guy that does all the historian shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that he like makes stories up.
Yep.
That was the Shane Gillis bit. And
Well, that's what I know. Yeah, no, he
talking
does
about one of the
he
dudes
does
in
like
there.
the very like methodical talking in the historian documentaries.
And he was just on the show before you.
Was he?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, he doesn't make shit up. That was on Shane. My bad.
Yeah, no.
My bad.
Shane Gillis was saying one of the people in his Civil War documentary was just making shit up. He wasn't.
not
he wasn't.
Ken Burns.
Yeah, no.
Okay, no disrespect to Ken Burns. He doesn't make shit up. The
Yeah.
guy in the documentary makes shit up.
According to Shane Gillis.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Well, how was he? Was he nice?
Oh, he was
best.
awesome.
He just loves history.
Loves American history.
I don't know if my parents would be very proud of me that I went to school, got a degree from A&M, and my history is based on Shane Gillis's documentary.
Yeah,
his
that's
stand-ups.
freshman history though. So that's
a long time ago.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
And to be fair, you
It's a
have known
survey
just
course.
as much, if not more, about the Revolutionary War than all the other people we've talked to
Well,
so
that
far.
honestly, in this office, that's not.
Okay, yeah.
That's not. I once heard Nikki Smoke say that Hawaii was the furthest away from an ocean.
Yes.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
So no, but I do. The biggest point is we won.
The all-time worst guess on the game that I play is Tate. When I asked him what the population was of Ireland, and he said 1.2 billion.
He did.
There's 5 million people that live there.
What's wrong with these people? I also the Paul Revere house. That's part of this story. I've been there in Boston.
Yeah. He went and warned people that.
The redcoats are coming.
Yep.
Yeah. See, I remember that.
Well done, Casey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And apparently there's like a fact check. What did he actually say? Because like everyone's like, he said the British were coming, but he was saying something. He said the regulars are coming.
I thought it was the redcoats in real life. It was. I mean, everybody says the British, but I thought it was redcoats. But I could be wrong.
I think he said regulars, but that does not sound as cool.
The regulars
Regulars.
are coming out.
The regulars are coming. Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
does
sound,
not.
that saying stinks.
The regulars.
The regulars are
The
coming
Why would
out.
they be called regulars?
They should have been the
Because
regulators.
they were the regular
Mount up.
British troops. I don't know, but yeah.
How sick would that be if that
The
was
British
the
are-
original regulators mountain up?
Yeah. Regulars.
Yeah, no, I feel as though we should just say that he said the British are coming. The regulars. Is
Yeah. Yep. I'm perfectly fine with that lie.
Well, I'm sorry for disrespecting Ken Burns the way that I did.
No.
I'm going to go ahead and accept your apology on his behalf.
It's Shane's fault.
Yep.
Yeah, blame him.
I will blame Shane anytime I can.
All right, Casey, thanks.
Thank you.
I do love history though. I love learning more and more.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in school, I forget everything from high school, and I didn't learn anything in college. So
Yeah, no, like I love history so much more. Like since I've graduated college,
Yeah.
that's when I've like learned most of what I know now.
yeah,
Because when you're in school and you got a teacher being like, "You got to do this by
Yeah.
tomorrow,"
Yeah,
it's,
no.
it's not as much fun.
no,
Can I say something about that?
yeah,
Overall, I don't give a shit about history.
really.
I like studying it. Like I like talking to Ken Burns. I thought that was fascinating. But as far as reading like history books, not into it. I'd much rather have like a dragon involved.
I mean,
See, that's cool too.
yeah,
Dragons
but
are sick.
if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Look around.
Yeah. I will never read a history book, but I like just like talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Well, you should check out the first half of this podcast or
Well,
majority
I will.
of it.
100%.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Thanks.
Thank you,
Oh wait,
guys.
no. Before
Oh.
you go, marry, fuck, kill the founding fathers.
Fuck, dude. I don't even.
That is kind of-
How many founding fathers were there? 3?
Yeah.
Depends on
Definitely
yeah.
more than 3. How many were there though? Because that is kind of a tough question.
So can you give me
Thomas Jefferson.
Okay, like Hancock, is he one of them?
Yeah.
George Washington, one of them?
Mm-hmm.
Now, was George Washington one of them? Like, I would assume so, but like he was.
Yeah.
John Hancock.
What's
Benjamin Franklin?
Yep.
Oh,
There's some cool people out there, man.
B. Frank.
All right,
think
just on that highlighted list, who do you think?
What do you know about B. Frank?
Dude, he's dope.
Yes.
True.
I'd probably. I feel like Thomas Jefferson was sick as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might. I think I'm gonna marry Ben.
It's tough.
It is tough. I might.
I feel like Thomas Jefferson was sick as fuck.
I think I might marry Benjamin Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck Thomas Jefferson.
And kill that midget James Madison.
Yeah, killed James Madison because Ebo's small too. He's short.
Yeah, true. A lot of the founding fathers were short. James Madison, I think, was like 5'1".
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin was short too, no?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was.
John
That's
Adams,
why Washington was such a dominating figure, because he was over 6 feet, which is very rare then.
I would have been a fucking monster.
Dude,
yeah. People would be like, where'd you come from, dude?
I was telling you should do MMA. Just when I was trying to choke you out, your neck's so big.
Yeah. It's a lot of
dude,
fat
you would be a
there.
problem in the Revolutionary War, dude.
Dude, I would just
you on the
bare
battlefield?
knuckle, because that's when they were using the muskets, right?
Yeah,
They had
with
to
the
reload with the
bayonets.
bull.
Yeah, and
Dude,
like those balls, because they were using round balls.
Yeah.
When you shot the bullet, like it was not accurate at all. You didn't know where that thing was going.
It was just there was no like boring inside.
dude, I would wait. I would take all my offensive linemen. I'd wait until they shot, and then we would just barge, man. We would just attack.
Barge, but
like
then
special team gunners.
Yep.
Eventually,
no guns, just hands.
No, I meant like a gunner on the football field.
Oh yes, exactly that. Yep.
But then once you got like up close, you'd have a bayonet and you'd have to like stab dudes. Do you think you could stab another man?
Yeah.
Okay, boom. No hesitation.
I would kill another man.
I would want this guy on the front lines of the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Same.
Just squeezing their fucking, gouging their eyes out.
Oh, like the mountain?
Yeah. Squeezing the skull of another man.
Shout out Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
We got to get this guy in combat.
Yeah, I would love that.
I got some connections.
All right. Cool, I'm down.
All right. You did a great job, Eddie.
Thank you.
I take back what I said that yours was the worst.
All right,
now
you.
I'll say it's the best.
Thank you.
I'm not going to go that far, but
who was better, Mintz? Hannah?
Mintz, because Mintz knew that the French helped.
But Mintz didn't do a single British accent.
Has he done a British accent?
Try it.
I didn't support that side, so no.
Oh,
won't
I
do
like
it.
that principle.
Let's go.
I won't.
I love that. Fuck them.
Won't do it.
Fucking
I
British.
think if Chicago played a bigger role in the war, you would know a lot more about it.
Let me
Yeah, I
ask
would
you.
say.
Can I ask you this to close it out? Who's your least favorite British person of all time?
Oh, probably James Corden.
Dude, great pick.
Yeah, that is a good pick.
Great pick.
Bump me up in the rankings.
Dude, that was a great pick.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was like, something about him just rubs me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Also too, big Jamestown guy.
Yeah, so
And that was a big battleground from what I understand, right?
Now you're number one.
Okay.
I don't know if it was a big battleground. It was a
But
big.
that's
it was
where
like
they swooped up. That's where the boats came up, and they.
I think that was Yorktown.
Was it sure it was in Jamestown of Virginia?
Well, yeah, Jamestown is in Virginia. I think it's very close. Yorktown, Jamestown, very close to each other.
Okay.
But you're right, because Jamestown first colony.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. I feel very good. You guys, if you continue to do this series, you will get me on a lot of shit. I feel like I won today.
You did.
This
Hanging
was
in the
not a
rafters.
competition, though. You know, we're just trying to, because we talked to Ken Burns, who knows the most about the Revolutionary War of anyone in America. So then we just kind of wanted to see what our coworkers knew about it.
You say it's not a competition. I say this guy to my right has a series where he lives to make a lot of people in this walls look dumb. It's not intentional. He's just asking the questions. It is a competition to not be the dumbest in the office.
Yeah, when he does those around the office fits,
That's fair. That's
yeah.
fair. That's not my intention. It is my intention, actually. Like, it's kind of my intention.
Okay. Yeah, I feel good about this.
But also, there's just a shit ton of stuff people don't know.
Yeah, no, I like to learn.
Why is Washington crossing the Delaware so famous? You know, because like everyone knows that famous painting of like George Washington in a boat. There's like chunks of ice in the water and stuff. But once again, I just knew that was a big deal. I didn't really know why until I started diving deep on the Revolutionary War.
Big deal because it was hard to cross rivers back then.
Yeah.
Good point.
In the middle of winter. But yeah.
I like that.
Thank you.
All right, Eddie. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Refresh my memory about what the other couple big battles were, because I'll remember it if you say.
Right. You can listen to the first part.
I will. Exactly. That's why you listen to Drop a Pin.
Yeah.
Update your history on all kinds of stuff and learn stuff all about the world.
All right, Mincy. Thank you very much.
And I will add, feel good. It feels good not being tight in an airplane seat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, new change. 'Cause
Yeah, if
when
I
you're fat in an airplane seat, it's a bad feeling.
How do you feel about the fats buying 2 seats versus 1?
Probably depends on the airline a little bit.
Yeah, isn't that a rule now? If you're
Yeah, on
over a certain
Southwest,
weight?
yeah.
All right, on Southwest, you got
I
buy 2
mean,
seats.
look, I actually don't have a problem with it, and I wasn't accountable for my health for a long time. But if you're not going to take accountability for your health, then you kind of deserve it, in my opinion.
Yeah, fuck them.
Fuck the fats. All right.
Thanks, Vince.
Well, thanks, Anna.
Yeah, thanks, Anna.
Thanks for having me. The Revolutionary War.
That's exactly right. Well done.